Ellie. So this is something, I don't know how much this was discussed on Friday, Paul, so let me know if you did. But this is now, Craig's here. Put the 3-shot up, Garrett, if you don't mind. Craig Smoak is here after his ordeal.
Yeah, it wasn't really my ordeal, but was the witness to a car wreck. So I had to stick behind on the scene and do my duty as a citizen to help out those involved and be a witness. So yeah, I was not expecting that today, but that's life. And luckily, not my car or anything, and was just a witness to it. But unfortunately, the person I guess involved is also okay, so that was good as well. But what I missed, like 30 minutes of FSU propaganda.
Oh no, it's been yes, at least
only about 7 minutes.
We started 5 minutes early because Paul wanted to get into that. Now here's the image: Brett McMurphy, day 7. This came up at 7:00 Central Time on my TV or anyone who has Spectrum. This is the statement that they put up right about the time Utah-Florida game was about to kick off, and it's still there. It is still there. All the Disney channels, ABC not affected, but this is something that is out there. How many of you, if we're asking if you're in the chat room or text message, 254-339-1122, how many of you are really close to saying, screw you, I'm changing how I get my stuff on TV? Because of this. Who's wrong here? Disney? Spectrum? Others? Who's wrong here?
Well, I'll let Paul unpack why this is going on because he knows more of that. But, I mean, you could just switch. And I know it's harder, sometimes easier said than done. But I see that and it's like, well, there are options. You could cut the cord. You could flip over to Grande or, whatever it is, Astound or whatever. Direct TV. So when I see that, I see that now. Brett McMurphy's like, that's a thing for him right now. So I get it. Yeah. And I know there's other Spectrum people, I guess, dealing with that too. But I'm not involved in that. And to me, it's like, well, why don't you just move services? But it seems like Brett's kind of got like a fight going on, right? And so he's kind of play-by-play in that fight. And, that's something that I would imagine is going to get people to cut the cord. And, you turn on the first weekend of college football to watch and you can't watch. I would be PO to no extent. So, yeah, I can understand the frustration there.
Well, and the thing is you can change. Although, Craig, yes, you can change, but you can wind up in a situation like me where, thankfully, as a Cowboys fan, I can watch the Cowboys because they're on NBC this week.
Yeah.
But when they're on Fox again until the Next Star thing gets figured out with DirecTV, I'll be somewhere else, sports bar somewhere watching it. And, well, maybe not even there. They usually have DirecTV.
Yeah,
so,
how are they going to? Yeah.
So I don't know how I'm going to be able to watch the Cowboys week in and week out until that gets done. So it goes all over the place. Bob Thompson had a very interesting tweet on it. It said, this one feels different because Charter has now kind of come out and made a lot of statements about this. It feels like they're trying to blow up the model.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, it's probably something that's long overdue because of what I think everybody in that industry is scared of is if somebody like Charter on Spectrum, if they come and blow up the model, no one's to say that what they're going to do is going to work.
Or it's going to cost even more money to get what you get now, which has already, of course, been rising steadily and methodically.
Much like the college football playoff, like why the college football playoff didn't change for as long as it did was they knew they were going to get this much money and it was going to work for them this way. And they were too nervous about messing up the money train that was already big. Like there was no guarantee in their minds it was going to be bigger. And so all the stuff that's going on, I think that's why everybody's kind of nervous about this. And ESPN's already come out and said, we're going to eventually go direct to consumer. So what benefit does Charter have over the next couple years, Spectrum or anybody, to play ESPN's game if they've already told them that, look, we're just going to offer a big, gigantic direct to consumer service without you guys at all.
I'm glad you unpacked it that way because on the surface it is what I just described. It's like, hey, why don't you just get YouTube TV? I saw a lot of those comments to Brett McMurphy. Why don't you just get another service? And then others explain, well, it's an age thing for some people of just like, you're older and you're not – what is YouTube TV? There's also just the comfort of what you've always known. There's also the price of like, am I suddenly paying more for all of this? So, I see some of those things sometimes and I'm like, oh, well, that's just like Patrick Craig's tweet or something. You're like, okay, whatever. But this does seem like there's like more of an end of the road coming for the sports lottery money bonanza, right? Am I reading that correctly?
No, and Bob Thompson mentioned that.
Yeah.
He mentioned that this could end up being a lot more expensive no matter what your options are. Now, Justin R., I got Spectrum. I downgraded to internet only and switched to YouTube TV. It costs less, and they have a multi-view where you could watch 4 games at one time.
I think the only knock I saw, and this was like, because I've started to at least look into it. Not that I'm moving anytime soon, but just to kind of be in the know on sort of how all this is working, especially knowing a lot of people who have switched over to YouTube TV. I guess what is one of the knocks, Paul, like you can't, we're so used to like hit last on the remote and you can just flip right back. Whereas there's a little bit more navigating, right? Is that basically just the change? There's a little, it's not as just simplistic as like back and return to channel or whatever. You have to maybe hit another button or so, which doesn't seem like a big deal. But when you've been used to something for so long, it can be a big deal.
As a longtime DirecTV and NFL Sunday Ticket subscriber, my favorite thing was last 4. You put up the last 4 channels and just go through game. And YouTube TV's got I think they've got the multi-view. They haven't figured that part out yet.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
Like you can't put the 4 games you want. You kind of are given those games, right?
Yeah.
You don't have, like, it's not like a la carte. Like I want Penn State, Michigan on this one, and then Oklahoma. Yeah, it's not quite that.
But here's the thing. They're new. The streaming companies are new to this.
Right.
If the only complaint is I'd like to be able to surf through these a little bit better, somebody is going to go, okay, well, here, and they're going to figure it out. So while that might be a year or 2 away, eventually that's going to be the thing. What was the big problem with DVR at first? Oh, I can only DVR one thing at a time.
Right.
Well, now you can DVR everything that you want to all over the place because they figured it out.
Eric, Nephron or Nephron, I know I've tried to do that before. Craig Smoak, take it one step further. It's the end of absurd valuations for sports teams.
Yeah, and you're right. And then that's the road it seems to be going down, because there has, in so much of the Big 12, Pac-12 talk, we all learned a lot more about TV during that year or so and just sort of sports rights and how some of that works. But I did get a different sense in reading, I think it was Patrick Crakes maybe at one point. I know he's at least commented on it previously, but certainly Bob Thompson here in the last day or so, as you put it, like kind of said, this is different. And yeah, it does appear as though just the COVID era spending, right, is I guess what we could refer to it as in some ways as well, when everybody was just like content, blank checks. And everybody got used to that, as we just saw with the Pac-12. If that wasn't an eye-opener, in terms of kind of the money that's going around right now and the appetite to just throw up blank checks to college football, for example, much less some of the others. But, it does seem like that's starting to change, and that is something that is notable.
Yeah, he's talking about what's going on with this and how this is maybe something we've never seen before. We will see Camelo, Fubo TV, or is it Fubo TV is good.
Fubo.
Because it has a bunch of the main network channels and Bally Sports, which is the only way I can watch the Rangers, so that I'm not going to get that, because the Rangers last night were eviscerated, embarrassed, and humiliated early by Jose Altuve in the Astros in what has now become an absolute collapse of what was a really simple run into the baseball playoffs. So there's that. Camelo, but I agree. I mean, if it has Bally Sports, that's fine. That'd be great, too. So there we are. Someone said Charter does not need cable. There's a lot of you responding. We appreciate all of what you're saying to us. And then Katie Rader set you